difficult, you know what I'm saying, to get the numbers in the next week or next month, you get more numbers. And so I think it's a little hard for me to get a clear understanding of exactly where the money's going. So it isn't anything, you know, that anyone's doing. I do understand we've had an issue, but it is difficult for me to continue to find the changes, and hopefully, and as I'm sure everyone does, if we get a little extra money, it'd be nice to be able to use it for something else we need other than playing catch up from something that we didn't know we had to pay.
If I may, I would just like to say that in the past, we would bring forward to council on a regular basis budget amendments. We lost sight of that in the last year with the change in the office. However, with Mr. Eva and myself, we plan to do that on a regular basis. And I would like to point out that every year we bring forward at the end of April a budget amendment and a proposed budget for the next year. And every year at the end of June, we bring forward that final budget amendment. This is a standard process that we've been doing for years.
But if I may, Madam Chair, it is a little, as you said though, it's a little bit different because it isn't as defined as it would be maybe next year. If you're still doing this, you would know more where your money's at, you would know more where things are at. Well, more organized is, I think, what the point is.
Mayor Lamren?
Yeah, Madam Chair, and again, I know it's, I think it's a difficult process for all of us. I think communication-wise, it's a difficult process for all of us because it's different than the city. It's different than any of the budgets that the city has looked at for a decade or, 15 or 20 years even, because there was always money somewhere in the back, or departments had clearly had fat built into them. I know I sat up here, so why, there were, if you recall, I mean, I can only speak to my experience as a council member, but there were always, the budget sheets that we always got had payroll expenses that weren't, but they were budgeted for, but they weren't there. They were, new hires or vacant, or, so that was padded. I mean, those budgets were padded with personnel expense and extra costs that, didn't need to be there, wasn't sure if it was going to be filled. So as the budgets were adopted, there was room for departments to eat up $50,000 in an expense in one other area. Council would adopt, the bottom line of that department as is, the process, and then interdepartmentally, those would be transferred to clean up the budget at the end of the year, and not really shown, or processed through to council because they were interdepartment. Only when the department needed money from other areas because it went over in certain areas, and and then you had to pull money in from whatever it might be, whether it be fund balance or something to clean it up. So, obviously for all of us, the process has been a little more challenging than at any other juncture. So I understand and certainly appreciate the council's questions and trying to get to the bottom of everything, because that's what we're trying to do, and it's the same concept. I mean, to sit down and have to look at department heads and say, stop, don't call purchasing, because purchasing is going to tell you no, you're not going to get an approved expenditure. Where any point in time, and anybody that's worked in public government, whether it's in education or anything, everybody in that aspect knows from a budget process, the end of the year is the point in time you start ordering, because you don't want anybody to start pulling your budget money away from you, because if you don't spend it, they say you didn't need it. Well, we did that 3 years ago to department heads, which was, basically pulled the, budget making process, away from them, because we couldn't do it. We had to get to the bottom. We had to really thin out what was going to be there and force these issues. And I've stated this is the point in time. We have to come to council and say, we need this money because it wasn't budgeted in here. An expense wasn't. We didn't have any room to grow, room to cover any unforeseen costs. We tried to budget as close to we could as what our foreseen costs would be, and sometimes those change in the process. So,
in this case, fortunately, I guess for us, not necessarily for the people who are paying the fines, but fortunately for our extra expenditures, there was this extra income through the fine process. Okay, so that's the way I understand it.
I'd just like to thank the mayor for acknowledging that there is a difference, that it is different than I'm used to. So I'm having an issue trying to resolve all of it. So it isn't the same for me. So thank you. And Madam Chair, if, I will pull my motion to postpone, and if any of the other council people would like to postpone, they can make that motion if they need more answers.
Okay, Ms. Fitzpatrick?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so now we need a motion on the item itself.
Sorry, the item is 5.
B.
Make a motion to approve budget amendment.
Support?
Support.
Okay. A motion by Ms. Brandana, supported by Mr. Delo to approve. All those in favor say,
Madam
I'm
Chair?
sorry, any discussion?
Discussion.
Mr. Delo?
Yeah, in looking at the sheet, I see that Corporation Council is now up to almost $400,000 for the year, and I'm wondering if that $400,000 is all within his own firm, or whether that is including additional firms that he may have brought in for their particular expertise.
Madam Chair, that would be, Corporation Council expense would be any legal expense that doesn't fit into risk management, doesn't fit into a specialized department like water, or attorneys that work for those, specifically for water or Tifa or brownfield. It's not a police liability, that's under risk management, the stuff that you deal with in risk management committee. So this is all legal cases. I mean, this is defense work as well, I believe, isn't defense?
Elections.
Yeah, so the court, when this court's defending itself through the process, trip and falls, those type of things, this is all comes out of Corporation Council budget. So, the legal, any other legal issues that are out there floating around comes out of Corporation Council.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? I have a motion by Ms. Brandana, supported by Mr. Delo, to approve the general fund budget amendment number 3 for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2013. All those in favor say yes.
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 All those opposed say no.
No.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Molnar,
No.
Mr. Stapleton,
Yes.
Ms. Brandana,
Yes.
Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Mr. Delo,
Yes.
Mr. Solers.
No.
Ms. Burke.
Yes.
Motion
Motion carries. Next tonight is a motion to approve.
Madam Chair.
Oh, Mayor, I'm sorry.
We had one, I mentioned to council, and council got the email to put in the system for mayor's communication related to the CDBG
yes.
public hearing. Do you have the printout on that or paperwork?
I don't.
On the motion? Do you have a motion?
We
should
should have
read
it
it.
on our,
I doubt the motion's in the emails. The motion in the email, because there's not an item, then we put the item in the system.
Good evening, council.
Mr. Weidlich.
Good evening. The motion is, I'm sorry?
Do you have it in writing?
Yes, well, this was the actual posting. It just says, city council to approve the community development block grant for the fiscal year of 2013-2014 as presented.
What was it?
Can I have that?
Was the document that was emailed to
Okay,
everyone.
but we need to open public hearing and close public hearing, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So can I have a copy of that just to hold and
Well,
we'll have to, I'll have to read the motions. I'm sorry, I thought it was going to be entered before the meeting.
Yeah, no, that was fine.
Okay. All right. But we have to do it tonight, right, Mr. Weidlich?
At
that right
least
or
have the
not?
public hearing, because it was posted.
Okay.
What did-
So.
What did the mayor say, Madam Chair?
Just to be clear, Mr. Weidlich,
Yep.
we have to do this tonight. We couldn't make a motion to postpone it, right? It has to be documented.
The action on the item, yes. The public hearing has been posted, stating that we're holding a public hearing, so we should at least go through the opening and closing of that process, and then council will take action based on how it feels with the information it's received to date, so.
Okay, and to be clear, is this we need 3 motions because then we're going to adopt the proposed budget?
At
After
this
the public
point,
hearing.
that's at the will and pleasure of the council.
Or does that happen at the next meeting?
The public hearing, we need to hold this evening, take any comments that the public may have
But
regarding.
the public hearing is to approve the budget, so yes.
It is
You're
open.
correct. Open public hearing, close public hearing, and
And then
approve,
approve the budget. So we have 3
I'm
motions,
assuming.
right? Okay.
I mean, we've already been through the public hearing process. Do we have to have a public hearing process, or just the,
Yes.
if you got some citizens here, Mr. Carter?
So,
Yeah, we did, didn't we already do that?
Madam Chair, if I
Carter?
may, the reason for another public hearing is because when we received the funds, we received actually more funds than HUD had initially told us we would receive.
And you changed it.
So there's a significant enough change in the budget that it needs to be.
Yeah, it requires a what, less than,
If it's more than 20% change in the budget,
Okay.
typically you'll do a public hearing.
thank you.
Very good. So
But you're correct that the action could take place at the next meeting.
the adoption of it.
Correct.
So we're just going to open public hearing, close public hearing, and we're done then?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Dilo?
was this properly posted? I understand it was in the paper, but aren't there additional postings that must be made with regard to this? For example, on the building?
Per our,
The document itself was made available at the clerk's office and also at the customer service
That wasn't my
counter.
question. Posted.
per our citizen participation plan, we just say that we will post it in the paper. A lot of years, we've also published it at the library, but that isn't per our citizen participation plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so, we have a motion to open public hearing, for the purpose of, gaining city council approval and to receive suggestions, proposals, and ideas from interested citizens, concerning the proposed use of federal housing and community development block grant funds for fiscal year 2013-14.
Motion to open.
Public hearing.
Support.
Okay, I have a motion to open public hearing by Ms. Mulner, supported by Ms. Brandana. Public hearing is open. Oh, I'm sorry, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Public hearing is open.
Madam Chair, if I could, to start, could I have Mr. Waylick, Mr. Waylick explain the differences within this budget compared to what was previously discussed, or?
Sure. From the time that it was, the original public hearing occurred, a couple of things happened. One is that HUD came out with their official numbers with some adjustments, which luckily made some additional revenue available to the city that we were not expecting. And then secondly is that there was some restructuring that occurred within the department, and some of the costs that had historically been attributed to labor, payroll, was no longer used in that fashion, administrative costs. And so that reduction in administrative costs also was able to then be applied to something else. So the combination of those two numbers has brought forth available $95,010, which has now been allocated to home rehabilitation. And all the other line items remained exactly the same. That's the one difference.
Which item? I'm sorry.
Mulner?
Which item?
Rehabilitation.
To home rehabilitation.
Home rehabilitation.
So almost 100,000.
It,